Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we are going to talk about the single most important thing you'll ever do in a laboratory. And it has nothing to do with discovering some new element or a cure for a disease. We're talking about safety. It's that invisible framework that makes all the incredible science we do actually possible. So let's get right into it.
So I want to start us off with a question. Just think about it for a second. You're in the lab, you're surrounded by all this amazing equipment, and you feel like you're on the edge of a real breakthrough. What is the single most important experiment you will ever conduct in that room?
You got it. Staying safe. It sounds simple, right? But without safety, none of the other experiments even matter. It is the absolute foundation that all good science is built on. It's the one procedure you have to run every single time without fail.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Well, it all starts before you even pick up a beaker. It really starts with you, how you prepare and how you conduct yourself.
Think of this as your pre-flight checklist for doing science. It's all pretty simple stuff, but it's totally non-negotiable. An apron, that's to protect your clothes. Long hair, gotta tie that up. It's a huge fire hazard. And of course, no eating, drinking, or smoking. Because you really don't want to accidentally ingest the chemical, right? And the lab has to be a contamination-free zone. But honestly, the most important thing on this list? Come prepared. Know the procedure inside and out before you start. That knowledge is your single best safety tool.
Now, once you're actually working, these are the core practices that'll guide you. You always have to give strong chemicals your full, undivided attention. Always put things back where you found them. That prevents some really dangerous mix-ups. And here's a big one. Never, ever guess. If you don't know how a piece of equipment works, just ask. And if something breaks, you've got to report it right away. Trust me, trying to hide an accident is always way more dangerous than the accident itself.
So, why do we have all these rules? Well, it's because a laboratory, just by its nature, is full of potential hazards. But the good news is, we can manage them. And the best way to do that is by understanding what they are. So let's break them down into three main types.
Yep, pretty much every potential danger you'll find in a lab falls into one of these three buckets: biological, chemical, or physical. If you know these categories, you can learn to anticipate risks before they even become problems. First up, we've got biological hazards. So think of anything that comes from a living organism that could potentially make you sick. This usually means samples like blood, or urine, or tissue, all things that could carry infectious agents. Next, of course, are chemical hazards. This is all the stuff you see in bottles, from really powerful acids to simple salts. The main takeaway here is that every single chemical, no matter how harmless it might seem, has to be treated with respect.
And finally, there are physical hazards. Now, this isn't about what's in the beaker, but the beaker itself. We're talking about the risk of sharp broken glass, maybe some faulty electrical equipment, or an open flame. It's basically the environment all around you.
Okay, so we know what the hazards are. Now let's get to the playbook, the things we actively do to protect ourselves. These are the essential measures that are designed to counter all those risks we just talked about. This one gets its own slide because it is the absolute, unbreakable cardinal rule of modern science. Never, ever, under any circumstances, use your mouth to pipette a liquid. There are no exceptions. It's incredibly dangerous and totally unnecessary with the equipment we have today. The bottom line is, you always use a pipette bulb or a pump, period.
This right here is the core idea behind what we call universal precautions. You just have to operate under the assumption that any and all patient samples, whether it's blood, urine, or tissue, could be infectious. This mindset completely removes any guesswork, and it guarantees that you're always using the highest level of protection for every single sample you handle.
So how do you put that mindset into action? Well, it starts with a physical barrier, your personal protective equipment, or PPE. We're talking gloves, face masks, the whole deal. It also means being really aware of what you're breathing. Never ever just stick your nose over a chemical and take a big whiff. And above all, protect your body, especially your eyes. For some chemical exposures, prevention is literally the only cure. And to deal with those physical hazards, these three rules are key. First, just don't use cracked glassware. It's weak and it can easily shatter under heat or pressure. Second, give yourself some space when you're lighting a burner. And third, and this is so important, before you even start your work, know where the safety equipment is. Find the fire extinguishers, the eye wash stations, the safety showers. In a real emergency, you don't need to ask for permission to use them. You just use them. Look, even when you're being as careful as possible, accidents can still happen. The key is not to panic, but to respond quickly and correctly. So this next part is your guide for immediate first aid.
All right, first scenario. What do you do if you or someone else has inhaled toxic fumes? The number one priority is getting away from the source of the fumes.
So step one, and this is the most important, get to fresh air. Move the person out of that contaminated area right away. If their throat is irritated, having them breathe in steam from hot water can really help. And after that, a warm drink can also be soothing. But remember, these are just immediate first aid steps you take before you get professional medical help.
Okay, this is one of the most serious emergencies that can happen in a lab. Your response in the first few seconds makes all the difference. So, what's the protocol?
First, you get to an eye wash station immediately, and you flush your eyes with water for several minutes, and I mean for a long time. The standard is about 15 minutes. This helps dilute the chemical and wash it away. Now, while the slide mentions applying specific drops, the universal and most crucial step after flushing is to get immediate professional medical help. Don't wait.
This table here lays out a really clear playbook for a few other common injuries. And I want you to notice a pattern here. The immediate action is always about minimizing the initial damage. For a burn, you cool the skin under running water before you even think about ointment. For a wound that might be contaminated, you rinse and wash it before applying an antiseptic. And for a cut from glass, your absolute top priority is stopping the bleeding before you worry about ointments and bandages. Now, in the terrifying event that a chemical is actually swallowed, the response is absolutely critical. Step one is always the same for both. Rinse the mouth out with water over and over. But what comes next is different, and it's just basic chemistry. If an acid was swallowed, a weak base like milk can help to neutralize it. If an alkali or a base was swallowed, you use a weak acid like dilute vinegar to do the same thing. This is a really crucial distinction to make while you're getting emergency medical help on the way.
And that brings us to our final thought for today. We've gone through all these checklists, these hazards, these emergency procedures. But are they just a list of rules you memorize for a test, or do they add up to something more? Because at the end of the day, real laboratory safety isn't just a list you follow. It's a culture. It's an attitude of awareness, respect, and responsibility that you have to actively practice every single second you're in that lab. It's a mindset.